So I just wanted to say why I started this channel and why Cody and I have such a strong bond. So I adopted him from a humane society when he was 3 months old. This was in Minneapolis. And the reason I did that, I was 22 at the time and had been previously attending the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. I was involved in a pretty crazy four-wheeler accident where the driver drove us off like a 30-foot cliff and knocked unconscious. And when I woke up, it was pitch black. I couldn't see anything. I was confused. I was groggy. I didn't remember how I got there, why I was there, what I was doing, how to get out. And it was in the middle of the woods, and it was pretty crazy. And that happened when I was 20 years old. So about a year and a half later, I stopped going to school. I tried to continue to take classes, but I was having a lot of issues, headaches, the fact that I was depressed out of my mind. I was struggling with PTSD, with traumatic brain injuries, and this was unfortunately not my first serious brain injury up until that point. I was having a lot of erratic mood swings, a lot of anxiety, sleep problems, memory problems, concentration problems, crying all the time. I mean, you name it. So I was really going through a tough time in my life. My family had a dog growing up, and I was pretty close with him. And my roommates in college watched dogs from time to time. So they just somehow made me feel better, and I just felt like I needed to get one. And so I called up the Humane Society, and they told me they had a litter of puppies. So I drove down the next day, and they had only one puppy left, and it was Cody. And we go into the meeting room, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. He was just a tiny little puppy, and he was timid and scared and, skeptical of everything. But he ended up coming and sitting on my lap and laying down. And
did we just become best friends? Yep.
It was like in that moment, he was like, all right, man, we're family. And we've been pretty much inseparable ever since. Honestly, I take him everywhere I can. He gave me something to feel good about when there was very, very little in my life to feel good about. He's a pretty lovable, goofy, friendly dog once you get to know him. Very energetic, very playful, just a happy dog. I love that. He is a little defensive at first, and he can be stupid in some senses, but he also is wickedly smart, and it's kind of crazy sometimes. There was an incident one time where a German Shepherd escaped from a first floor window and attacked Cody, and the other dog came up behind us. So I didn't really even see it at first, but by the time I turned around and looked, he had bitten down on Cody, and my instincts kicked in. I just reached my hand in there and tried to break it up. Kind of works, but unfortunately the other dog ended up biting my finger, and as soon as I felt that pain, I ripped my hand out of there instinctively. It came free, but I almost lost the tip of my finger, but it got him to release Cody. At that point, the other owner was able to get a hold of that dog. There was blood shooting out of my finger, blood coming from Cody. I told the other guy, hey, call 911, immediately. And his response was, I don't have money to pay your medical bills. I immediately, at that point, knew he was going to be no help. So I ended up just driving to the veterinary hospital myself, dropping Cody off to get stitches on his chest and rib area. And then I drove myself to the emergency room to try to save my finger. He ended up getting around 10 stitches in his chest, another like 10 to 15 in his side. I ended up getting 5 on my finger, but I was able to save my finger. We both made pretty much a full recovery. That was good. Some people I tell this story to tell me you should never break up a dog fight for that reason. I don't look at him like just a dog to me. He is a member of my family, and I will do whatever it takes to protect him. Like 4 months later, almost in the exact same spot, I was taking Cody outside to do his thing, right where you're supposed to take dogs. And there was another dog on the 3rd floor porch, but you have to kind of go up and over the railing. That alone even is a far fall. So I didn't worry about that dog at all. But the dude who was watching that dog was taking his 2 pit bulls out to do their thing at the same time. I didn't see it because I wasn't watching, but all of a sudden I hear this thud, and I turn around, and this dog, he fell like 20 feet, started coming after me and Cody. I picked him up. I was shielding the other dog away from Cody, the dude who was taking his pit bulls out rushed over to the scene. So at one point I had like 3 dogs jumping up and trying to bite me and Cody, and I like twisted my knee, but luckily Cody was fine, didn't have any injuries. Needless to say, I was done living at this place, and I moved the second my lease was up. We would go on hikes all the time, and I tried to take them on some long walks and play with them when I could. But throughout that time, it was just like I was working really hard to try to pull myself out of the hole that I was in, and it required a lot of time. I would put 8-10 hours in at work, and I would come home and only be there for like a half hour, and then go spend 3 hours in the gym, or work on developing programs for my stats that I was working on, or filming and editing videos, or going to the golf range for 3 hours and working on my swing, or spend the night with a girlfriend or something like that. I didn't really have a problem with that, but coming home and seeing Cody and just knowing that I was locked him in this prison cell really kind of killed me inside a little bit. But I was always doing that in the hopes that one day that would provide a big enough income to where I could spend more time with Cody. That was always the plan. That's what I believed, and for a minute there it kind of worked. But then I moved to Los Angeles. About 6 months later, I found out I had a brain tumor. And a month later, I subsequently had brain surgery to remove that tumor right above my brainstem. I ended up having a stroke during the surgery and a few other complications, and it really kind of destroyed everything about my life. To be completely honest with you, that was immensely difficult, as you can probably imagine. I had trouble walking, balancing, doing stuff with my right side of my body. I had lost my job. Pretty much everything about my life has changed in the 2 years since that surgery happened. But guess who was always there for me? Cody. He couldn't tell what was going on, obviously, but he knew something was wrong, and he was extra protective, which I don't want him to be, obviously, around certain, kids or other dogs, but I do appreciate the loyalty. And then, it was about a year and a half ago, I was sitting there and I just knew that, whatever I did, whatever I set my mind to, eventually I'm going to make it happen. I know that about myself. I know my work ethic. I know my commitment, my dedication. And I also knew that it was going to take a lot for me to advance my career and climb the corporate ladder. It just killed me because I knew that that was going to be another sacrifice. And I knew that that was going to take away from my time with Cody. And that's why I started this channel, is to do something with Cody that he loves, spend time with him, and also provide an income. And that was the goal. The one thing that he loves the most in this entire world is going for hikes. And I love it too, honestly. Getting that close to nature, getting tens, hundreds of miles away from civilization, super, super peaceful. And it's a great workout. So there's a lot of upsides. So I started this other channel, Hiking Horizons. And I don't necessarily show him in those videos, and that's something that I can continue to do when he's gone, but he is the reason I started that. He comes on every single hike with me. If that never blows up, if that never produces a livable income before he's gone, then I just took him on too many hikes. Worst case scenario, I'm happy with that. I know at some point, one day it's gonna come where he's not gonna be with me anymore. It's gonna be my reality. I'm gonna have to live with that. And one of the things that I know that's gonna give me comfort at that time is knowing that I tried to do what I could to give him a good life. And about 4 months ago, he was diagnosed with diabetes. I didn't even know that dogs could be diagnosed with diabetes, to be honest with you. It almost killed him because he ended up running into a complication of diabetes called DKA. I was pretty emotional about that. But thanks in part to the amazing people at Veterinary Emergency Group and my family for helping us through this. He made it through. I don't have any kids, but he feels like one to me. I look at him like a son, honestly. I would do anything that I can to help him out and give him a long, happy life, because he's done a lot for me, way more than he'll ever realize. And so, yeah, we love you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.